Oh, no, do
We
it
have
again. You're wearing green too.
now, whenever I
Yes.
call any of my gay male friends who have now
Right.
bullied me senselessly into go
Right.
seeing Wicked,
Mm-hmm.
I
Which you haven't
if they
seen.
call me on the phone, I like greet them with that. And they could be
Yeah.
like an urgent question. And I'm like,
That's amazing. I love
that's what
that.
they get back for bullying me.
Oh, is that
And
right? You think
and I
that's
will
what's
say nine
happening?
times out of ten, they definitely do the thing back to me about that. So it all
Listen,
works out.
listen. Before we even keep going, Wicked is not
Welcome.
just for gay
Oh,
men. Okay, it's for women.
oh.
It's for men. It's for anyone who enjoys a good story about
Hmm.
finding your place in the world.
Yep. Yep, yep, yep,
There you
yep, yep,
go.
yep, yep, yep,
That's
yep,
my
yep, yep.
spiel. Hi,
Well, I will
everyone.
say we got the screener, so I will be watching it, but probably not in theaters. But hello, everyone, and
Oh
welcome to
no,
Shaken and
Daryn,
Disturbed.
no.
I'm Father God Daryn, or as my friends call me, Daryn No. Daryn
Yes,
No
that's
is
right,
my
Daryn. No, that was
is
me.
my Daryn No is my full name.
No.
And we've got lovely Mother God here, John Thrasher, with us today. We are feeling the holiday spirit. We're so excited because our backgrounds of this
Yes.
episode, last few moments of this Christmas spirit, it
Season.
moves by so fast,
Yeah.
so quick. Um, by the
Also,
way, I just have to say this up
yeah.
top. I was
Yeah.
at a Grinch party the other day before I came to New York, where you had to wear something Grinch,
Only Grinches
and
could be there. Yes.
only Grinches. And in order for like get to people to know each other, because this was in LA, they were like split into groups, like they split us into groups, and it's like just talk about your favorite holiday movie, and like just a like thought conversation. So we were in this
Uh-huh.
group, and I knew most people, and there was like everyone's like favorite movies, like Elf, Home
Yeah.
Alone,
Yeah.
Griswolds,
Yeah.
and I
National
was like
Lampoon. Yeah.
Jingle All the Way, and everyone looked at me like I was psychotic. So
Psychotic. Yeah. One, two,
yeah,
three, psychotic. Well,
one,
I
two,
thought you were
three,
gonna say like
psychotic.
I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna say like Nosferatu or something like uh, Saw,
Oh, oh, yeah. No, I
Merry
would say
Christmas.
that. Yes, give me something like horrendous and horrible, and I will say that. Yeah,
But
Requiem
really
for a
quick though,
Dream. Yeah, yeah.
first of all, that sounds like my worst nightmare. Sectioned off into groups in a party. Goodbye. I'm walking right
Goodbye.
out the door. But secondly, I want to just mention our outfits because they're kind of cute and festive, and we didn't plan this. Like, I haven't worn this blue flannel
You're
yet.
Hanukkah
Darren's,
blue, which is weird
yeah.
because you're not Jewish, and
Well, but that's okay.
it should be with me. But I'm in a
A
nice
green
green
turtle.
turtleneck, a little
Yeah.
turdy, a
It feel.
turdy.
Oh, oops.
Oh,
Um.
oh. Thank you.
It feels like we should be like next to the fire, like just
Hmm.
chatting up, yapping
Can
up a
we
storm.
add a fireplace to our set
Next
for the
time.
holidays
Next
next
time.
year?
Yeah,
Maybe
next year.
a little warm, little
A
warmth.
little warmth, maybe a little glow, in the background. Why didn't I? That's a great idea. I don't know why I didn't think about that. A nice little
Because
fire.
your chestnuts haven't roasted in
Fires.
so long. We're gonna get to that, people, because
Yeah.
today it's the
Yeah.
end of the year. And as you
That's
know,
right.
we like to take it a little bit easy towards the end of the year so we have time to
That's true.
recharge, be
Yeah.
with our families and friends. We're traveling a bunch this year, so we're doing our usual Q&A episodes. We did this last year and you
Yes.
guys seem to really love them. So now we're recording them and putting them on Patreon and YouTube as well, just for our fun little nougat. And we might have some
Yeah.
questions for each other in there
Yeah.
in this time period. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I love that. A coworker of mine, I was telling her about us doing these, Darren, and she was like, "Do you guys ever like ask each other questions?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like we don't really like interview each other too often. Maybe that's a
Right.
whole other thing." So yeah, maybe we'll have some at the end here. But speaking of which, speaking of Patreon and YouTube, by the way, we did just wrap our 2024 True Crime Recap live stream. That is up now on Patreon and YouTube. We released it as an episode last week.
So
So
fun,
yeah, it
except
was
for
so
my
much fun.
computer crashing out beforehand, but
It
it just,
was
it was
it
harrowing.
was 1 minute and 30 seconds before, and Darren
Yep.
was not in the studio. And I thought to myself, I may just have to go right. But then you jumped on and everything was fine. It was like
It
amazing.
actually was fine. Like my
Yeah,
internet ended up being great, but it just goes to
good.
show like how much hunger there is out there just to talk about these cases again. Like,
It's true.
even
Yeah.
re-listening, even relitigating the seven
Yeah.
facts that we kind of didn't know, and then recapping some of those crimes from last year. Like, I
Right.
still get my blood still boils just as much as they
Same.
ever did
I
from when we
know.
first started
Same.
talking about it. And like, I kind of wake up every day being like, am I doing the right? Like, Did I say the right
Mm-hmm.
thing? Did I do the right thing?
Same.
I want to be on the right side of history here. I want to give people their
Right.
due, but it's hard not to talk about things that are still a mystery. With all
Yeah,
respect to take John Bonet, for example, just respect to the Ramses and respect to other
of
people,
course.
but
Yeah.
just like you want to be able to do right by the whole thing.
Yeah, and I would add that the live element of being able to interact with some of the listeners, I think was a really fun thing. And we're going to do a lot more of that in 2025. This year we were building up our YouTube account and like trying to figure out the right way to meet you guys like on a live stream. And we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot from the live stream, I think. So we have some really exciting things in the works for next year. But more on that on next week's part two of this Q&A.
Yes.
For now, Daryn, we asked you guys to submit questions both on Patreon and on Facebook. Most of today's episode are the Patreon questions. So, Daryn, let's get right into it with the very first question here.
Well, yeah, let's get into the most important, the hard hitting
The
questions
one
here.
that's, yeah,
Susan asked, John, this one's
yeah,
for you. It's
yeah.
obviously not for me. Who is the sexiest male tennis player of all time? I,
Ooh.
meaning Susan, not me, Daryn Carp, always had a thing for, is it Matt's
Matt's
Willan
Vilander.
Matt's
Vilander.
Vilander because he
Yep.
resembled my hometown crush.
Mm.
Thanks, big
Well,
heart.
Susan, thank
Let
you
me think
so
who I think is
much.
the
Yeah,
sexiest male
Daryn,
tennis
you
player of all
ponder that
time.
for a second. Yes, yes. Susan, first of all, I know you're pandering to my heart here by asking me a tennis question right off the top. Who is the sexiest male player of all time? Well,
It's
my
hard. I
my
feel like you have a thing for Carlos.
Carlos Alcaraz is a very attractive guy. Let me put it this way: if Carlos Alcaraz was at the bar hitting on me, I'd be like, "Let's get up out of here."
Okay, but like
That's
if
what I would
anyone
say.
was hitting you at the bar, you'd be like, okay, I'm fine. Like
That's
you'd
true.
be like,
Like
if
anybody,
any like
yeah,
male
any
tennis
single
player, you'd be like, that's
male.
fine.
Yeah, well, that's true. Most male
Nadal?
tennis players. I would say he's very handsome. It depends on what you think is sexy. I mean, in my opinion, well, let me
Yeah, well,
also
we want
say
your
this.
opinion.
My opinion slash the general public's opinion slash plenty of other straight male tennis players think that a certain Italian player who's currently on the tour right now named Matteo Berrettini
I'm
is
looking this up.
the most handsome guy you've ever seen. Yeah, look him up, Daryn. Maybe I'll
How do I
throw it
spell
up on the
Berrettini? How do I spell Berrettini? Got it.
Berrettini.
Italiano.
Reactions, Daryn, as a lesbian?
Well, he's 6'5",
Yeah,
so I'll
he's
give
very
him
tall,
credit. Yeah.
slender, very handsome
Um,
guy.
he's a very handsome guy. He is not the most handsome to me, but he's a
Okay.
handsome guy.
Okay, not your type.
He's a handsome.
Most of the male tennis players on tour make jokes and references that Matteo Berrettini is the most handsome. For me personally, I would go into a Feliciano Lopez. I would go. Darren's gonna look
I'm
him up
looking that
too.
up.
Feliciano Lopez is extremely handsome.
Oh, okay,
Darren's into
Feliciano
him.
Lopez.
Of all
Okay.
time, though, I'm just gonna have to say Feliciano Lopez. I think he's just really beautiful in all ways. But it's like, is sexy just looks? I mean, I think that it's also personality,
I definitely think it's also
you know?
personality. And
Yeah, I
sometimes
agree.
there's fun. Although tennis, not that those guys don't have great personalities because they absolutely do. It's just like
Yeah, usually they
on
do.
the court,
Yeah,
like John McEnroe, obviously a notorious
right.
dick on the court.
Yeah, right.
Probably is pretty fun to hang out with sometimes. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
would
Like he probably
imagine.
has a fun personality. He's obviously cameoed. He's kind of made a sort of a post career, not only on being a tennis genius, but also like on
Right.
this
Yeah.
personality type. So I don't know. That could be cool. I mean, Andy Roddick, I always thought was very cute.
And Andy is extremely handsome. And I will say this, I worked at the US Open in 2013, 12, 13, and got to meet Andy in backstage for an event. And I was so nervous to meet him. He's extremely attractive in person as well. Like he's pretty tall, and I was just, I'm gonna give one last name, and this is an upcoming guy. Okay. He's a
Oh,
French player named Arthur Fils, Fils.
Arthur
He
Fils.
Arthur Fils. Check him out. He's extremely handsome. And I think a good personality, if nothing else. So anyway,
Oh, okay. Okay.
that's my answer, Susan, which has nothing to do with true crime, and frankly, most of these don't. But Darren, let's keep the conversation going. Marty, our favorite sussy radish of them all, pretty much. Let's
Love
just say
Marty.
that. We love Marty. Commented on Patreon saying, if you were stranded on a desert island, a la Castaway, with no FedEx boxes washing ashore, how would you pass
Mm.
the time besides doing basic survival behaviors?
I've shockingly thought about this, like
I
kind
had
of
a
quite a
feeling you did.
bit.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
about this movie a lot, like, three things I'd really need on an island to like keep me entertained.
right,
I'm going to assume that Marty means we don't have anything, like not like if
right.
we could bring something, what would be great?
Yeah,
Obviously I'm an avid reader, so I'd bring that. Um, I'd probably take walks. I'd
lots of
probably
walks.
take walks around the island. I mean, what else is there to do? You explore. I mean, that's like kind of the only thing to
You,
do. I'd
yeah.
probably be very scared,
Hmm.
but I'd pass the time. I'd pass the time trying to learn like spear fishing
Right.
or explore or walking.
Right.
What
Okay.
about you?
So Survivor is what Daryn would be doing.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Good. I would be doing the same thing. I would be spending all of my time like learning how to make shelter, trying to make sure I'm capturing rainwater so I survive.
But
I mean,
those basic survival behaviors, she
yeah.
said. Those are basic survival
Oh, you're right.
behaviors.
Okay, you're right. So then I would probably be trying to make sandcastles,
Oh,
talking to the seagulls in hopes that they can understand me. Um,
staying out of the sun because you and I are
yeah,
avid face sunscreen wearers.
we sure
Imagine us
are.
stuck on an island
Yeah,
without
that's a good
any
point.
protection.
Yeah,
We'd
that's gonna
stay
be
out of the
tough.
sun. That's
Well,
going to be the hardest part,
that's gonna
people.
be the toughest one. So maybe digging holes in the sand and laying in them so that we don't get any sun on us. Things of
Good
that
point.
nature, Marty, but that's a great question.
Manifesting magic to be on the island with me and
That would
catching
be
the
nice.
birds and the
Yeah.
fish to make
Yeah.
hunting a lot easier. I don't
Yeah.
know. These are the
Hopefully
things we
we
think
wouldn't have
about.
to eat magic though.
Well, we're
All right,
eating you
let's
before we're eating magic.
Fair
We know
enough.
that. We know
That's
that.
fair.
Amanda Kay, who was John's friend, says, is a
Yes.
hot dog a sandwich? Which I feel like
Oh,
is the age-old question, and the answer is no.
well, Amanda really wanted to start something with this question clearly, and if I know
Yeah.
Amanda, um, no, it's not a sandwich, despite the fact that it is a wiener between two buns. Um, I think a hot dog is just a hot dog. You wouldn't call, no, I guess you would call a sloppy Joe a sandwich. Is a sloppy Joe a sandwich, even though it's sloppy like that?
No, sloppy joe's a sandwich because like an
Mm,
Italian sandwich can be sloppy. A chicken salad sandwich can be
mm,
sloppy. It's a
fair.
sandwich.
Okay, fair. All right, well, there you go. I thought we were going to have a big, huge debate about this, but it looks like we're doing
No,
exactly what we
I
need to
think
do.
you don't think you don't you agree with me that it's not a sandwich.
I agree with you. Yes, it's not a
It's its
sandwich.
own category, just like I guess by
That's
definition.
what I was
Hold
trying
on,
to
let me
think
see
of.
what it's
Yeah,
because
is there an,
like a burger is not a sandwich, but it's a sandwich. Let me
well,
see
I
what
think
the
you have to say
definition
burger
of
is.
okay.
Go ahead.
A sandwich, according to Wikipedia. Oh my God. And their image, you know how they do like images of like,
Yeah,
Johnny Depp, and it'll be like him on
yeah.
like on a press carpet. The image they have of a sandwich is like
I don't
the
want to know.
saddest. It's
Ew,
white
don't tell
bread,
me.
one piece of lettuce,
Ew,
and like
ew,
bologna.
it,
That's what they use.
ew.
Anyway,
You're ruining
a
the
sandwich
holidays.
is a dish typically consisting of meat, cheese, or vegetables used as a filling between slices of bread or placed atop a slice of bread, or more generally any dish in which bread serves as a container or wrapper for another food type and allows it to be finger food.
Well, then hot dog falls into that.
There have been social media debate. No, because that's not like bread, it's a bun. There have been social media debate over the precise
Oh, okay,
definition
fair.
of sandwich, specifically whether a hot dog or open sandwich can be categorized as such. Other items like hamburger and burrito were also considered.
That's what I was
And
thinking,
the
burritos and tacos.
USDA are the responsible agencies for protecting the definition of sandwich.
Well,
And the
enjoy
USDA
that.
uses the definition at least 35% cooked meat and no more than 50% bread.
Okay, this is spiraling out of control.
I'm just saying.
Well, can a
Just
hot
wanted to.
dog, the actual frank, the meat, can that ever then be a sandwich? Like, what if I put it on a piece between two pieces of bread? Is it suddenly a sandwich?
Yeah, I think if you're like
Okay.
laying five hot dogs with bread
Oh,
on
you
top
have to
and
do a certain
bottom,
amount. Okay.
well, I think it would be weird otherwise, you
I
crazy
agree.
person.
I agree with you. I'm just trying to
Okay.
make sense of
Well,
this
Amanda,
all.
thank you for the hot topic debate.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Susan says, "What is a splurge item that you bought for yourselves?" Hmm. Well, yeah,
Oh,
Darren, what
so
do you have? You
many.
probably have more than I do.
Um, Splurge item. Well, I buy a lot of clothes. I buy a lot of
Yeah.
suits. So I'll
Yeah.
buy some type of pieces or like a suit that I've really, really wanted. But let's say we don't include clothes and let's say we just include something
Yeah.
like fun. I've been spending a lot of money on my books lately, but that's not fun. I will say something that I bought myself
Yeah.
that literally has no use. I don't know if we even talked about it on the show. Maybe we
Maybe.
did. Um, Something that I bought myself, which was like 250 bucks. So not cheap, but not
That's yeah.
like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm spending $10,000 on a car or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was meaning it's just kind of a gift for yourself. It doesn't really have any use. It is I want to say the dimensions are maybe like 3 by 4 inches, very tiny television set that plugs in. And I got it for Seinfeld. And when you plug it, it only has a power button and a volume up and down button. And
Interesting.
when you turn it on, it'll play a random episode of Seinfeld and it will just keep continually playing and it has 180 episodes of it.
That
And
is
they had
really
John,
cool.
if they had it for Golden Girls, I was going to get it for you.
Oh my
Let me
God.
see what shows they have on it now. Hold on.
That is a really free plug for them because it's such a cool
Free plug for
item.
them. I'm a big fan of theirs. John, I can send you
Yeah.
I want to send
What's it
you what
called?
like
Let
it looks
everyone know.
like. It's on Etsy. You can get it from this guy from Ape Tech Printing.
We'll
I
put it in
see
the
they
in the
have
show notes.
Rick and Morty, Malcolm in the Middle. I think he's adding things all the time.
Okay,
Bob's
yeah.
Burgers. We'll definitely put it in the show notes. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to chat you. They have The
Okay.
Simpsons as well. I'm going to chat you the link right now so you can actually
Love.
see it because I want you to. I think you'd be like kind of impressed by it.
That sounds
It just
so
looks
cool.
very cool, and you can just kind of have it on all day. Change the volume, but it is I don't know how he's able to do it, but it's just
Right.
it's kind of a
I mean,
wonderful,
yeah.
silly gift to get someone. And let me tell you something, the quality is amazing.
Really? It's
Yeah,
probably if I had to like guess, it's probably like a thumb drive plugged into some sort of display.
it's plugged in
That's
like it
so
is like
cool.
it's not yeah, it's not like a thumb drive, it's an actual plug. Did you click on the link?
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at it. It's so cool.
Yeah, so
I love this.
it's a very cool splurge and they've had It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They haven't done
Love.
Friends yet. I want them to do Golden
Friends
Girls.
would
That's
be
what I really wanted to get
Golden
you for Christmas.
Girls. Oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet. Thank you. That would have been a really cool one. Yeah, I'm not a big, I see what you're saying, Bob's Burgers, Rick and Morty, Malcolm in the Middle. I'm not a big fan of any of those shows, so I wouldn't be able to
That's
really
why it's not,
enjoy.
it's only cool if you
Yeah.
like, obviously Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I was on a carpet. I was doing Demi Lovato's carpet and my camera guy was like, "You're a Seinfeld fan, right?" And I was like, "Duh." And he told me that his wife had just gotten this and I was like,
So
"I don't
cool.
care what it costs, I have to get it." So,
Love it. Love it.
thank you for the question, Susan. What about you, John? What's like a splurgy item?
Um, I mean, people sometimes misunderstand that my tech that I have for my job and for frankly, for this podcast is splurgy. Like, I bought a really expensive MacBook 4 years ago, but if it weren't for that MacBook, the show couldn't go on, so to speak. I think that the biggest splurge item for me was my BMW, which I have always associated with the show because if it weren't for you guys, I probably wouldn't have gotten that. So thank you for all of you who have supported us here on the show over the last several years. So that's probably my big one because I could get, a Toyota Camry or a Nissan Sentra, but this particular car was something I'd been eyeing for a long time. I had lived in New York for so long, so I didn't have a reason to buy a car at that point. So when I
Did you
got
put
back to
Santa mode on, by
Maryland
the way? Did you
on
put
the
Santa mode
Tesla,
on? Yeah.
no, what is Santa mode? I don't even know what that
When you go
is.
into your car, hit the voice command and hit Santa mode on or say
Okay.
ho ho ho. Just
Not Darren giving me Tesla tips, you guys.
we're in role
That
reversals
was
right
a
now, John,
splurge
but
for
this is
you, right? In a sense, a little bit to
yeah.
some
Yeah,
degree,
yeah, yeah.
buying a new
I
car.
leased it. Yeah, I leased it, but yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Sorry, but go
Anyway,
on.
so that's us being a little more indulgent than we do here on the show. Darren, you have two questions in a row coming up here.
Aaron with two N's asked, does Daryn have time to sleep between Andy, TV interview appearances, shaken, and reading your 50th book? How do you maintain sleep in relationships?
Great. By the
Well,
way, I want to say
that's
a
a
couple weeks
great
ago,
question. Yeah.
I teased this on an episode. I was like, Darren, we're getting our Ask Us Anything questions. And I said, Aaron in particular had a really great question. And this is the one because as someone who speaks to you at least for an hour a week, if not more, depending on our voice memos and text messages, I don't know how you're doing this either. So I am also asking this question. Go ahead.
Okay, good question. Well, number one,
Yeah.
I value my sleep. So I do get a lot of sleep. I am a very
Yeah, you are. That's
um
true.
once I'm up and I'm doing stuff, I'm a very regimented person. I
Mm-hmm.
just am that way and I'm very type A and I like to cross things off lists. That very much so helps me, just
Stay
something that I like to do, and
focused.
I
Yeah.
think it helps me stay focused. I think it also helps that I'm in LA because every hour is shifted. So I wake up to a lot of emails that I can kind of do
Right.
in the morning. My mornings are very, very busy, but towards the afternoon, by 4 o'clock my time, it's 7 p.m. here. And, at that point, things are a little bit more settled down and that I kind of have the whole night. It's funny because it also probably helps that my girlfriend is busier than me. So when we
Fair.
maintain relationships,
Fair.
it's concentrated time because she's just as
Right.
busy, if not busier. So it's a little bit easier to maintain there. But one thing I do, which is say what you will, I think I've talked to you about this a little bit before, John, but I've been doing this since living in LA because I live in a little bit of like a quieter neighborhood. So there's just not
Right.
as, there's like kind of one road in and out. So when I take walks during the day, I actually read my book as I walk.
I can never do
Um,
that. I don't know
I
how on
can't
earth you do that.
tell you how many people stop me with this. I can't tell, like at least 3 times every walk
Mm-hmm.
that I do where I'm reading a book, people are like,
Are
that's the
you
coolest thing I've
okay?
ever seen. Hey, get off your iPhone. Haha, just kidding. Good for you.
Really?
Wow. They'll be like, wow, like reading a book, like what inspiration. And I'm like, oh,
Well, I think it's
okay.
that you're doing it and walking, right? Isn't that what they're saying?
I think yes, but also that I'm reading.
How on earth? How on earth? I mean, maybe if on the beach it's one thing because you kind of you
No,
know what
because
you're.
like you're,
Yeah,
but like look at you looking at your phone and walking. People do it all the time. In fact, you're
fair.
more aware when you're reading because you can usually hear. I don't have headphones in. When people are
Right.
walking on their iPhone, they have headphones in. They're blissfully unaware at anything. And they're so like, give me the next thing. Whereas reading is like you pace yourself. You are like, it's kind of the way to like stay present and use your mind in a different way. It's not listening to anything. It
Hmm.
really engages your mind so differently.
I would
Yeah,
have a hard time like literally keeping my hands still enough to read. But maybe that's my own eyesight problem. It's a good
I think
question
that's
though.
just you. And also, let me just say, when you've been doing,
Yeah.
especially with Andy, because we have such a good relationship, I could do things a lot quicker than I ever had to before. I just kind of know
Right.
things. Oh, send this to
Yeah, that's true.
Sam. Like, oh, great, I know Sam's address at the top of my head. So there's
Yeah,
just
how
like
many years
things
has it been with you and Andy?
13,
Wow.
13.
You have a
So there's just
teenager.
things you can kind of, yes, we have a teenager, can kind of cut down on. But thanks for your
Yeah.
question, Aaron. That was really good.
I love that, Aaron. And I second that question.
And next question is from Paula. Paula wants to know, how many states have you been to? If you had
Hmm.
2 weeks to travel, what new states would you go to and
Oh,
why?
I love this question.
I love it.
How many
It's
states? I'd have to literally
probably,
look at a map.
I'd have to look at a map, and I've been to every state along the East Coast.
Yeah, you and Andy because of the tour, right?
I've
Because
never
you've
been to, I've never been to West Virginia. I
really?
don't think. No, I don't know
I'm
if I
trying
would
to
have had a
think if
reason
you
to go to West Virginia. I've never
yeah,
been to Idaho. I've never been to
okay.
Wyoming.
Right.
Um, let's see. I've never been to Arkansas. I've never been to Mississippi.
You're right.
So I've
I'm
never
literally
been there.
counting right now. Sorry.
I've never been to Nebraska. I've never been to Iowa. It's mostly middle states. All the coast. I've never been to Oregon. I've never been to Oregon, and I would love to go to Oregon.
That makes sense. I'm doing like a general number here.
Count.
So general count. Have I been to? No, I haven't. I have been to about,
I'm gonna look up. I gotta
well, I'm
look at a
just gonna
map.
do it. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 if you include a layover in an airport, Yeah, I think 20 for me.
Hold on.
Yeah, I've never been to Washington or
11,
Oregon.
12,
Oregon.
13,
Yeah, it's 20 for me.
14, 15,
Have I been to Michigan though?
16,
No.
17, 18, 19, 20.
Darren's counting. Yeah, counting, counting. I don't want to throw you though, so I'll let you count.
I
She's
think
still
I've been
counting.
35 states.
35. Okay,
I think
that
I've
makes
been to
sense.
35 states. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
And I've been to Alaska and Hawaii. But if I had 2 weeks to answer your question,
Yeah.
what new states would you go to and why? I would really like to go to Oregon. I've really wanted to go to Portland for so long. Just beautiful. I've heard it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Right up the coast. I could drive like the state of California and go to Oregon. I think that would be so nice and
Oh yeah,
so
you should do
fun.
that.
And honestly, like I've really wanted to go to like the national parks. I've really wanted to go to Montana.
Me
I've
too.
really
I've
wanted
wanted
to
to
go
do
to
that.
Idaho or like Nebraska, like these big sprawling types of
Mm-hmm.
states. And listen, I'd like to see Mount Rushmore like in my
Why
life.
not?
Like
Check it off the
it's a
boxes.
landmark. Yeah, it's like history in the United States. So I think I'd like to see that. What about you, John?
Yeah, I'm similar. I've had Montana in my head for so long now. I also have never seen the Grand Canyon. And so,
Oh man,
that part of the country I'd love to just spend a week in and just kind of
the
like,
national parks here are
yeah, yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, they
They
really are.
really are.
And Wyoming, like all these places that aren't full of like cities, the way the coasts are, I think have been forgotten in a lot of ways in terms
Yeah.
of like tourism and just the fact that like it's our country, like a large part of our country is this beautiful sweeping mountain ranges and gorgeous outdoor scenic
Like
environments and
Moab would be so cool.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember the summer after September 11th. So the summer of 2020 of 2002, excuse me.
Hmm.
We took an out west trip and we went to Zion and
Oh yeah, I
Bryan
remember that
National
now.
Park and did this whole thing. Went to Santa Fe and went to El Paso,
Hmm.
Texas. And we did these like, Arizona type of,
Yeah,
and it was beautiful. We saw the Grand Canyon. It was beautiful. And
yeah,
I highly
that's cool.
recommend definitely seeing those things in your lifetime because they're really great.
And I definitely want to go to the last public spot that you can be to see Area 51. So that's on my
Obviously.
bucket list.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you
obviously.
for that question, Paula. That was a great
Thank
like
you.
reflective question there. Morgan asks, "What is y'all's favorite Christmas movie?" Heart emoji. Love you guys. Well, we have Home Alone and Jingle All the Way in our
Yep.
backgrounds if
Which
you
are
are
two of my
watching.
top favorites. Both of
Yeah,
I
if we had to pick one other one, Darren, if we now know these are our favorite movies, but what is the next our next favorite?
well, I will say the movie that always makes me feel like this certain type of year is A
Hmm.
Christmas Story because TBS
Yeah.
plays it for 24
Yeah,
hours on
that's right.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And Christmas Eve into Christmas Day from like 8 p.m. to 8 p.m. the following day.
Yeah.
And I've been tuning into that for so long
Right,
that I
same.
think it just is like, it's the only time of year I would ever put it on. I know
Right.
it's on TBS. I know they're going to play it. I can kind of come in at every part of the movie. It makes me feel like I'm home again.
I know what you mean. It's my mom's favorite movie, so like there was a span of time for like 10 years where like I would always get her something
Christmas
from
movie of all
yeah,
time movie. Oh,
all time. She loves the movie all time. Yeah, it's her favorite movie. So for a
love
few
that.
Christmases I would get her like the DVD back when there were DVD players and just random little thought memorabilia like that. My next favorite Christmas movie would probably be it's a really tough one. Um, I don't know. I mean, this might not be my favorite, but it brings, like you just said, Darren, like a lot of like feelings and memories up is the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer claymation version.
Sure.
Because my mom, like you were just saying, would eventize like that movie and Frosty the Snowman. And it was like, I have all these like memories of us cuddled up on a couch watching that movie when I was a kid.
I
So it
love that.
always, I don't love the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, um, but yeah, so those are probably my top. I love the Grinch too, by the way. Jim Carrey's The Grinch, love him. Darren's gonna sneeze, I think.
Yes, Jim
Oh,
Carrey as the Grinch is a great fucking movie.
just want to make sure you could hear me. I thought you were gonna sneeze for a second.
No,
That's what I
my
was
headphones got coangled.
tangled up.
But
All right.
Jim Carrey as Grinch I could watch all the time.
Yeah, it's just too good. By the way, whatever happened to Faith Hill? Where Are You Christmas from The Grinch? Is
Oh,
she
good point.
okay? Like, I heard her recently. I heard that song on the radio recently. By the way,
Where are
Are
you,
you Christmas?
Christmas?
Why can't I
Can I
find
find
you? A
you?
bop, a Christmas bop, if there ever were
A
one.
bop, a
And I heard
bop.
it on the radio recently, and I was like, Faith Hill, what happened? Where are you? Are you okay? I literally looked up if she was still living. Faith Hill, check in. Anyway, keep going,
Yeah,
Darren.
Faith Hill, SOS. Blink twice if you need us to save you. Mitz, who came on our live stream all the way from Mexico, which was so nice of her the other night, says, "Hi, mom and
Yes.
dad. Will we ever find out what happened with Matt? You can tell us on the next live, yes or yes. I love you guys. Mitz, maybe we'll just tell you.
Yeah, maybe we'll swing down to Mexico, which I would love to be in right now. No one invited me. Um,
You know,
there's
we
not,
might.
we're not
I wish there
hiding
was a
anything.
I wish there was a really interesting story
I
about
know,
it.
that's
Like
what I keep saying.
I wish that we could keep you guys with some juicy gossip about it. Unfortunately, there's just,
Let's put it this way.
there's
We
just
don't
not
know
much
what
going on.
Matt is up to these days. So if anyone has an update for us, let us know. We wish him all the
Yes,
best,
please
though.
do. Yeah.
Darren, I have a special question for you. This one says, Hey, Darren, I think you're really pretty, and I would really love to do something I've never done before, kiss a girl. Would Nadine be down for that? Let me know. Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yes. For JLD, yes. Yes.
Your
Definitely.
face, and then the way you jumped up out of that was really funny.
Well,
Um, yeah.
it's
So I just wanted to,
JLD.
I saw it in the questions
Yes,
and I had
JLD.
to make
Yeah, no,
sure.
thank you. No, I'm
Yeah.
glad you took that one because that was really
Yeah.
important. I'm glad
Do
she
you want to
DM'd
talk
you.
to Nadine first about that or
No, I feel like
no?
Nadine would have to be okay with it. Like, there's just some things
Right.
that Nadine has to be okay with, and that's just one of the
Right.
things that she knows
Right.
that
That is an
she have to be
obvious.
okay with. Like,
Yeah.
even if she was angry,
Right. You can deal with it later. It's
like,
Julia
we'll
Louis
deal with the
Dreyfus. Yeah.
consequences. Yeah.
Okay. All
No
right.
one
Good.
else but
Well,
JLD.
thank you, Julia
Well,
Louis Dreyfus, for sending
yes,
in a
thanks,
question
JLD.
today. Yeah.
Okay, Paula wants to know. I love this question. What book or movie changed the way
I
you
knew
think
you would
about
like this
things?
one. I knew you would like this one, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And I don't know what my exact answer would be, but I will
Okay.
say I don't know that it changed the way I think about things, but Brokeback Mountain, which was so important when it
He's
came
like,
out,
Wicked.
Wicked. I mean, to a certain degree, you're like, what Marvel movie will move me
Yeah.
to a certain degree?
The
Um,
Avengers Fire Force really forced me
shut
to.
up. Oh my God, you're so mean. But no, Brokeback Mountain in 2005 and what it stood for, and like at that time, like it's hard to explain now to people who weren't teenagers or young adults or whatever at that point, but like it was so important and meaningful to see gay men represented on the screen, even in
Yeah.
that story, which is unfortunately not, of course, well, it is a love story, but it's not very heartwarming. Maybe that's not even the right word. It's a bit of a tragedy. That's all I'll say about that for a movie that's been out for 20 years. But I will say what I was just talking to a friend recently about was I remember watching it when I think I was 17 or something, 18 at that time, and enjoying it. I felt a connection to it. I love Jake Gyllenhaal and Heath Ledger anyway, so it was like an exciting thing for me. But I recently watched it for the first time in about 15 years last year.
Mm.
And as a 30, whatever I was, 36-year-old at the time, completely new perspective on everything down to like the symbolism of the sheep on the mountain
Wow.
to almost every single line that they were sharing with each other and what it actually meant, which I just didn't grasp as a 17-year-old uneducated person. Um, and so it really moved me in a way that I wasn't expecting, frankly. I watched it because I just wanted to see how it looked, all these years
Yeah.
later. And I came out of Brokeback Mountain with a whole new perspective on storytelling. And I think also, and I'll stop yapping in a second, also as a producer, as someone who has been involved in like producing content and to some degree storytelling, especially true crime, because there's a very severe crime that happens in this movie. I think that also kind of lended itself to my perspective and perception of that movie. So, yeah, Paula, thank you for that question. Darren, what's yours? You've read 50
Oh man,
books this
I've read a
year,
lot.
so
Yeah, I'm actually just going to stick to books. I mean, movies have changed my perspective, but books really sink into me. I think because
mm-hmm.
you're reading about another person's perspective, and movies, outside of documentaries are fiction,
Right.
So even
And
if
your
it's
book,
based
of
on a real
course,
story, it's not reading it from that first, it's not watching it from the first-hand account,
right.
you
So
know?
tell us why Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix moved you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was actually Prisoner of Azkaban.
Azkaban.
Makes me think about the prison justice system.
The justice
Um,
system.
it makes me really think about the justice
Fair.
system,
Kind
you
of
know?
fair, though. But keep
No,
going.
actually,
Yeah.
there's two books that I'm just going to mention that I've read most recently that are very juxtapositions of each other, but have definitely made me change my mind about a lot of things. One of them is by this famous psychologist, excuse me, called Harriet Lerner. And she has written a number of books, and she writes a lot of, there's a lot of, Why Won't You Apologize? The Dance of Anger is a big one.
Mm.
But I recently just finished one of her trilogy on the dances, and the dance of Deception. I'm going to make sure I get the exact title right. I
Okay.
want to make sure that I have it. Yes, The
Dance of
Dance of
Deception.
Deception by Harriet Lerner, a guide to authenticity and truth telling in women's relationships, is incredible. It
Okay.
really, I think men should read this, but this
Love.
is a phenomenal book, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. It really taught me about relationships, how
Okay.
people view themselves,
Mm.
how easy it is to pretend and to lie, and the difference between being honest and being a truth teller. Just
Yeah.
really incredible stuff, and I think that anyone would benefit from reading it. So definitely
Love.
that. And then the other book I'm going to recommend, it's going to sound like a very boring topic. And normally I would say that it is, but this book actually changed the way I view cities. It's called Paved Paradise: How Parking Explains the World. It's by this guy, Henry Graybar. This actually came out, I believe, this year or last year.
I
It
feel
is
like
about
you've
parking.
mentioned this before. Yeah.
It makes you think about parking in cities and what we are doing to with car culture in general.
Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
really, and listen, I live in Los Angeles. It very much so mentions Los Angeles, very much so
Mm-hmm.
mentions New York, certainly mentions areas that are not cities. What we do with parking in sprawled out places,
Yeah.
like the Montanas and the this, and how
Texas.
much
Yeah.
parking has just being able to store a car when you're not really using it, because most cars are stored, not used for the most of
Yeah.
their time, how much space it actually takes up
I know.
and
It's
how much
crazy.
cities and places are being demolished in the sake of parking. And more parking, actually being able to park more, actually creates less spaces, and you
Right.
wouldn't think that it does that. It's sort of counterintuitive, and he explains why. It's an amazing read, so
I don't know if
highly
you talked
recommend.
about this or somebody else, but I've heard of that book and it did sound fascinating. So that's awesome.
It's really fascinating, John. If you ever want to borrow it, please let me know. But it
I
is
may.
really, you'd think it would be a very boring topic, like, oh, I read a book
No,
about parking, but it actually
I
makes
see
you
what you're
really
saying.
think about cities and
The
social
sociology. Yeah,
economics and
exactly.
what we're encouraging, and just in
Right.
general, the sort of the other underbelly of it. So yeah, I
Love
highly
that.
rate you, highly recommend.
Love that. And thank you, Paula, again. What a great question. Last question for 2024 and for our part one here, Darren, which is from Dewan. And I love this question. I wanted to make sure it was our last one as we have a couple questions for
Yeah.
each other maybe, but Dewan says, "What is your favorite thing about the other person?" And I have nothing, so I want to hand it over to you. I'm just kidding. No. I love I Have Nothing by Whitney Houston, by the way. Great song.
I have
Um
friends, period.
I'll go first, Darren. I'll
Sure.
say that my favorite thing about Darren is that you are just simply like a really trustworthy,
Thank you.
amazing friend. And I used to think it was just specific between you and I, and then I realized like this is just who you are. You're a really good person.
You're not special.
Everyone, no, I'm not too special. No. Um, but Darren is like this with everyone she meets, and she is loved, beloved by everyone she meets for the most part, as far as I'm aware. We haven't heard of all the other stories yet, but I'm sure they'll come out soon. I'm kidding for legal
Uh-huh.
purposes. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think you were just, I mean, that sounds so like low hanging fruit of an answer, but it's true. I mean, I don't have we seen each other this year? I don't think we saw each other in 2024, which is a travesty. But
I can't believe that, but I don't think that we
I
did. You're
know. But
right.
that's
It's
what I'm
just
saying.
crazy.
Like
But I do
that
feel like I've
that's my
seen you,
point.
like,
Yeah, like
yeah,
I haven't seen you this year, but you are one of my best friends. I feel very connected to
absolutely.
you. And, doing the show. I mean, yes, this is a true crime show and we do other things here and there with the show, but like creating something with one of your best friends and it going as smoothly, frankly, as it has between the two of us and just
Yeah.
dedicating so much time. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, so we've been friends now for 10 years. And we have spent, Daryn, if you think about it, give or take just a couple of weeks, we've spent at least an hour talking to each other every single week for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Isn't
That's
that weird to think about?
insane.
We've probably spent more time talking to each other overall than other like
That most
some of our
people.
family members, you know?
Absolutely. I couldn't it's wild. I mean, listen, everything you said that you feel about me, I feel the exact same way about you,
Thank
but
you.
just to pivot to something different, I will say John is like there's like kind of a two-part question for me. It's like he's the most reliable person. I feel like if John says he's going to do something, as much as I make fun of him for birthday gifts, he really does it. Like if I say John, John helped me out when he didn't have to help me out. He took an hour-long phone call conversation with me this year to explain like Disney,
I did.
like for
That's
no other
right.
purpose than to just make me feel like I'm smarter and this little thing
Yeah.
that I had to do. And he just like, and I know you were passionate about it and stuff. So I knew I could come to you, but just that you weren't
Yeah.
like, oh, this is so annoying. You just did it with grace. You never make me feel like I'm bothering you. You just like,
Never.
you take every single, like whether or not you can answer it right away, you always are just so respectful and really just a stand-up person.
Oh, thank
And
you.
even when I'm feeling like I'm fucking up or not doing enough or this and that, like you always are just like you always have my back and you always support me. And so I really, really
I do have that.
value that in you. And I think it's a you specific thing.
Mm,
So thank
thank
you for that.
you. And I feel that same way for you. I love you for that. Thank you so much. This
Thanks,
feels like
Steve.
whenever Adele won Album of the Year and she thanked Beyonce. I don't know if you
It's
remember that
exactly
video
like
clip.
that.
That's what it feels
It's
like to me.
exactly like
Yeah.
it's exactly like that. Who am
I'm the
I?
Beyonce. I'm
Okay,
definitely
good.
Beyonce. You can be
I'm
Adele.
definitely
That's fine.
Adele. I'm 100% Adele. I think we
Yeah,
all
you're not
know
a
I'm
huge
Adele.
yeah, you're not a huge Beyonce fan as we've learned over
Well,
the
Adele is
years.
also like crass and like a
Yeah,
cockneyed
exactly.
accent. And so she's just
Yes.
like, she's
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck off. And you're like, okay, like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's
that's
you
me
to a
too.
T.
Yeah,
Absolutely
right.
to a T. Well,
Yeah.
Daryn, let's ask two little questions here to each other. Questions for each other we have. My one for you is you've had quite a year both personally and professionally, in my opinion, at
Mm.
least. Um I know you've been talking to all of my favorite people. Just as a recap, Lady Gaga, David Archuleta,
Yep.
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yep.
There's another person in the works we'll talk about soon, next year,
But
maybe.
that's not with me. But yes,
No,
in
but
theory,
still
adjacent, but
connected.
adjacent.
More
Yep.
on that another day. I feel like there's even one more person. And all over the red carpet talking to everyone I love. But okay, that's fine. You even,
Yeah.
by the way, just as a recap, this was the year that Daryn met David Archuleta and did not give him my number. I just want everyone to
Correct.
know that.
That
Let me
happened at
actually
like
say
the
this. I
beginning
take
of the year,
everything
which is
back that I
crazy.
just shared about
Yeah.
you. I just remembered that. But I want to ask you, what are you most proud of this year, whether it is personal or professional? Is there something that sticks out like, wow, I did that. Wow, I did that.
Well, the thing I'm hopefully going to be one of most proud of, I can't talk about yet, but I'm going to talk about it in the top of the new
Ooh.
year.
Okay. Do I know
Um,
what that is?
you
Oh, I
do.
do know what it is. Yes, 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 I do.
Um, but I think certainly like, listen, I'm happy that like I'm happy in LA. I'm very proud of
For
myself for like
sure.
really like kicking to
Yeah.
do that. Gosh, I'm sure I'm missing something, but I will say a highlight that really comes to the top of my mind is getting to work with E News and getting to do all these like really fun red
Yeah.
carpets. But one of the best things was them sending me to London and Bermuda this year, like on
That
my
was
own to go
cool.
interview them was really cool, especially London. It was just so fun. And then the ability to interview Hoda Kotb one-on-one in Austin at her
That was
wellness retreat.
cool.
And she gave me like 25 minutes and we just sat down and we just
Wow.
spoke and we were talking about something I'm really passionate about, which is meditating. Been meditating every day
Oh,
for the
that's
over
right.
2 years. I have not given up any day that I've done it. And obviously, like getting to talk to her about that, sort of something
Mm-hmm.
that I'm really new in, but so is she, and sort of getting to talk about, hey, this is woo woo, but it does kind of work, and
Mm-hmm.
was really a highlight. And just for my own personal gain, the fact that I kind of started this year being like, let me see if I can read a book a week,
That's
and doing
amazing.
that.
That's
um
amazing.
I have 2 books left, and it's like it's pretty great that I can say
Unbelievable.
that, like, I'm not going to continue doing it a book a week, because there were parts of
That's
me
a
where it's like,
lot.
sometimes I have to think about what book I want to write, or what book I want to
Hmm.
buy. And I
Yeah,
bought so many books now that, like, I'm good for next year. But
right.
I will say that, setting just like a small goal that had nothing to do with work, that was just for the betterment of me, between
Same.
meditating and reading, I really am proud of myself for being able to
I
keep
love
that up
that.
and not compromising on anything like
Good
that.
for
So,
you. Good for you.
yeah.
You're such an inspiration. I love that.
Oh, babes. I wanted to know for you what
Yeah.
thank you. That was really nice of you. I want to know what
Mhm.
you want to accomplish in 2025, and what's your resolution. And I know a lot of people set resolutions and it's like, I'm at a gym, I'm not going to eat sugar. Like, a lot of it has to do with health, but I'm curious
Yeah.
for you what you're going to do for your personal life this year, not
Yeah.
professionally.
Personal.
What your
Okay.
resolution for 2025 for Jonathan Jane Thrasher is. Go.
None of that was right.
Jonathan
Um,
Jane is your full name. We can tell the audience now,
Jonathan
finally.
Jane.
Thank
Okay.
God.
Actually, that has a ring to it.
Jonathan Jane.
Jonathan Jane. I
Yeah.
like that.
Jonathan
That's my
Jane. That's like
like
your
author
drag name.
name. Yeah, my drag name.
Oh,
Right. Oh.
oh, your author name. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. I'll write a book as a drag queen. That's fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so my resolution for 2025 personal. I would say maintaining and appreciating my own happiness. Like that is something I
It's
always
big.
strive for, but I'll be honest, I've compromised some parts of my life, my own happiness for other people, for other things. It's a deeper conversation, but
So you want to set boundaries, if you
I want
will,
to set
this
some
year.
boundaries. That's a really great way to put that. And I really want to put myself first. And I'm not trying to say that I'm some saint that's out here like helping, but I've really come to realize that like I put a lot of effort into other people, other things, other relationships, etc. And I don't know that it's benefiting me always, and I've had to really kind of take this year and look at those situations and say, am I doing this because it's par for the course, or am I doing this because it's helping me? And if it's not helping me, then what am I really participating in that situation for? Whether it is a personal relationship or even things like, as silly as this is going to sound, like streaming services. I'm like, I don't need every single streaming service, and I don't need a $400 a month bill of streaming services.
Yeah.
For example, here's a great example. Somebody on TikTok recently was like, "Why are you buying or why are you paying for Amazon Prime?" And I took a step back and I thought, I order things maybe once a month and they're never urgent. I don't really watch anything on Prime Video right now, at least. Maybe I cut that bill out of my life. And just like, even as
Maybe.
silly as it is, those little subscriptions, all the way up to, frankly, toxic people in your life potentially, like it's all about filter, filter, filter down to what is best serving you. And by the way, not every single thing has to constantly serve you. We can be to the help and advisement of others, and that's rewarding in and of itself. But I've had to take another look at that for a multitude of reasons. So I really just want to put my happiness a little further to the front than it has been previously. And that's a really deep answer, but that's the truth as
Well, I'm
well.
going to I'm going to hold you to that.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I
I'm going
love
to
you
hold
for
you to
that.
that.
I love you for that.
Well, that was part one of our
I know.
just
What a
tip
time.
of the iceberg, some
Yeah.
questions. So we're gonna, if you asked a question, maybe we haven't gotten to it, maybe we're gonna get to it in part two. So all the
Yep.
more reason to listen to that. But like every episode, John, we have to end with some fun listener shout outs. And
Yeah.
the first
Well,
one has to be to you
for
guys,
everyone. Yeah,
because
exactly.
you stuck with us for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
2024 was such a fun year. We launched a YouTube channel. We grew it
That's
to be big enough to
right.
live stream and monetize, which is honestly, like, no thanks to me and all thanks to you guys, none to John either. Obviously, we gained new listeners. We're already working on fun stuff for 2025. Maybe we're going to see you guys in
Yes.
person. Someone said on our
Maybe.
live stream the other night that we kind of just disappeared off Martinis and Murder, and they just recently
They just
found us
found us. I was like,
after
wow.
4 years. So they kind of have a back catalog. So just the fact that we didn't, I think, properly get to kind of transition the show was
Yeah,
always something that kind of stuck in my craw. But I'm really happy that
same.
people were searching for us and finding us and are coming to see us again. So thank you guys for sticking with
Absolutely.
us because we love
That's
you.
right. We love you guys. Thank you so much. And like Daryn just said, we will have part two of our Q&A next week. But thank you so much for making 2024 such an amazing year for us. And we'll see you next week in 2025.
Bye
Bye.
bye.